and we did our own survey to see just how bad this problem was.
So the Ngāti Porou Hauora got cracking. With Connie coordinating the local agencies, they compiled all the research and survey material they needed to present to council.
We did it as a survey, questionnaire we pumped out into the community. It asked that, have you got a gambling problem? And do you know somebody who's got a gambling problem? Is there a whānau with a gambling problem? Have you ever experienced a gambling problem, whatever, whether you were one or were you just a whānau member? So out of all the surveys, 82% had some experience with gambling problem.
They canvassed hundreds of people with questionnaires, phone interviews and visits. They kept the media informed and collected every news clipping.
Connie, with the backing of Bill, did put out surveys all around the district, followed them up, got a really good response rate, and were able to come up with a big set of statistics that showed there really were problems being caused to individuals and families and whānau all over the district by gambling on pokie machines. And that research was good enough and strong enough that they were able to put it back to council, and we said to council, look, this research is good, it's solid, you can't argue with it, you need to have the review that you promised.
The survey done by Ngāti Porou Hauora identified 82% of those polled had been negatively affected by gambling.
It was information about the numbers of people that problem gambling was affecting, and then it was from pokie machines, and then relating that to that national and international information, so that it had a very definite local focus.
And the council agreed, and they said, right, we will have another round of submissions and we'll look at our policy and see if it needs changing.
The hearing committee agreed to review the policy. That's when we all got together.
We also started to bring in other groups from the community, a whole range of groups, Gisborne Council of Social Services, Pacific Island groups, and lots of other groups in the community. Public health unit from the hospital, all came together and we started to work together.
The local agencies, and in particular Ngāti Porou as the iwi, drew together the local strengths. We were able to add to that by having a local person who could tap into our research and library and researchers and bring in the national statistics, the national picture, help people interpret and analyse the data on the ground.
We started to talk with each other, we started to kind of coordinate our efforts in writing submissions. Instead of writing one submission, every individual organisation within our costs were asked to put a proposal and a submission in too.
When we go into the council, we're 30 against 2.
And so when you got 32 organisations all putting in a proposal, a submission to council, the council's got to listen.
We're outnumbered. We outnumber them by heaps, and for us we've got to keep that going.
Coming as a group, your voice has got more impact, and of course working together as a group with the various organisations in Gisborne about this issue of problem gambling and making changes in the policies, of course it would have more impact.
So all those issues here are coming forth from all the agencies so they could understand why we wanted, all of us wanted a sinking lid policy.
Another strength is relationships. Relationships are very important with the community organisations, but also with council.
We had a huge networking system already in place. So what we did was bring them on board.
We're able to network very quickly and very passionately.
They had the same sort of ideals in the areas of problem gambling. They saw the consequences of problem gambling in our area.
It sounds as if myself and my department have done a great deal in this. Really we haven't. These groups have really done the hard yards and gone out there and researched the problem and come back with all the information. Really all we've done is facilitate and advocate.
We had 2 rounds of submissions, and in that we put together the local information that Ngāti Porou had come up with, plus national statistics that I could access through Problem Gambling Foundation, international research. We put the whole package together.
We had local data, but we didn't have national data. We couldn't weave it into our local data, so Dave was a big asset to us in the areas of bringing local data into our submission.
So when we went to council the first time, we said, right, here's the research. what are you going to do about it? And the council accepted that it was significant and they would need to have another look at the whole situation.
And indeed the impact was quite profound when they actually brought it to council, and they came along with a substantial delegation of people from the local community who were very passionate about, not only passionate about in their belief about this problem, but also at that stage had it backed up with some hard data.
And so the proposal we put to council was that ideally we'd like to see no pokies in the whole Gisborne district, but we realised that was not realistically going to happen. So he said the next option is to have a sinking lid.
A sinking lid policy means that the number of pokie machines in the area is capped, and if any are removed from premises, they can't be replaced.
Ngāti Pro Hauora, they actually had a person that actually did some research into the harm of gambling in our region, and they recommended to our Planning and Regulatory Committee, and we had a sinking lid policy. It's just probably one of the very few sinking lid policies in New Zealand, and it has been working because in terms of the number of machines, they actually have been reduced.
The sinking lid policy was a collective decision. It wasn't a Hauora decision at all. We just led the way in putting the paperwork together and pushing it into the district council. At the end of the day, it was a collective initiative.
We may never get rid of them, but at least we can kind of try and reduce it.
So instead of having one of the highest ratios per capita, it's certainly in this part of the country, if not the country as a whole, we now start to reduce the numbers to something that's more reasonable. And the council saw that as a way to move forward.
But I think our council is willing to sit and listen and talk with us. So that's got to be a big plus.
The presentation of solid information then enabled council to utilise its powers to effect gambling policy change in Gisborne.
I'm very pleased that we've managed to, at least at this stage, contain the number and of pokie machines across the district, and we've got an active group and a number of groups that are clearly monitoring the issues and keeping them at the forefront of councillors' attention.
Where we're at the moment it's not finished, so there's still more research to be able to promote what we want as a collective.
A review of the policy has to be carried out every 3 years, and it's really important for a community group or community groups like this that they maintain their watching brief.
There's actually a sense within the community that council is some big amorphous machine that's difficult to access and even more difficult to influence. Of course that's not the case, and here's some useful ways that you can do it.
That's the way local government should work, is that most of its policies should originate from the view of the community. Often it's difficult to find out what the view of the community is, and you end up with a view of one person or two people or three people or a particular fairly strong pressure group or interested party.
The council took a relatively open mind and said, gosh, we've made a decision, we don't really think we had all the facts. If the community can tell us that there are things we've missed out, we're prepared to review our decision, and that's a sign of a healthy democracy when elected representatives are prepared to keep their ears open.
I think the key is that there has to be one group that's actually taking the lead. In this case it was Ngāti Pro Hauora.
That's how we affect change here. We're a very, very close community, and we lobby together to a huge extent.
The more that communities can come forward and say this is actually what we want, the better.
When you see community organisations working with their local council like this to change the environment, it makes you very hopeful that we could have more powers devolved locally to local councils, and these decisions about gambling environments could be made closer and closer to the communities in which people live.
No one group could have done it alone, and to get all the groups in the community working together on this was the key to it.
The communities and the community organisations became informed, and through that they became empowered, and in that process they were able to convince their political elected representatives that they wanted a different type of environment. That is a beacon of hope for communities up and down New Zealand.
We've shown that it can be done, we've shown that groups can work together from a whole variety of backgrounds on an issue, and we can actually take on big industries, which the pokie machine industry is, take our case to council and actually get some change and make a difference.
Well, I'm a grandfather and a great-grandfather. I want to see a district 10 to 15 years' time where people like me, and I hope I'm still around, don't have to worry about those sorts of issues, that there are machines out there that can rob you.